Local 4 News starts now with a breaking news alert.
That breaking news, Mel Tucker responding to MSU's move to fire him.
In a lengthy public statement, he says in part, quote, "With no new information, MSU moved to terminate me sanctimoniously and illogically, claiming this action has no impact on the ongoing investigation. The investigation is designed to determine if I violated policy. I did not."
He continues, quote, "I can only conclude MSU does not care about my rights, the truth, or its future liability for policing its employees' private lives." End quote. We are still digging into the statement and are attempting to speak with Coach Tucker. We'll have more tonight on Local 4 News at 5. Developing today, the United Auto Workers warning that more strikes could come. UAW President Shawn Fain saying last night the union is prepared to call on more workers now to ensure their demands are met. Only about 13,000 of the 146,000 union represented auto workers are currently on strike.
Ford, GM, and Stellantis have released details of some of the offers that they have sent to the union. The union says these offers aren't good enough, and now a new deadline is in place. Let's get out to Will Jones joining us live outside the Ford, Michigan assembly plant in Wayne. Will?
Hey, Rhonda and Jason. Quite a lot of activity here. You hear the horns blaring behind me. A parade, a car parade, caravan of cars just started moments ago with UAW members, and this has been the scene outside the Ford, Michigan assembly plant for days now. You hear some of those workers yelling right now. So they've been out on the picket line demonstrating while negotiations continue with Detroit's big three automakers. Right now, as you mentioned, Rhonda and Jason, 13,000 workers are on strike at 3 plants. The Ford plant in Wayne, a Stellantis plant in Toledo, a GM plant in Missouri. UAW President Shawn Fain is warning that more plants could be added to the list if this continues, if negotiations don't progress with the automakers. Fain set a noon Friday deadline, which would mark the start of week 2 of the strike. UAW hasn't said which plants could be the next targets. Back out here live, this parade of cars still continues. So you have these cars, and then you have people on all sides of the Ford, Michigan assembly plant, these UAW workers. Right now, this has been the scene, and it really hasn't changed. And it's amazing after all of these days that this energy is still continuing. UAW started out with about $800 million in its strike fund, providing workers about $500 a week. If they add more plants and more workers to this strike, the faster that this fund will dwindle. We're live in Wayne. Will Jones, Local 4.
Okay, well, pretty lively out there this noon. Thank you. As negotiations here in the United States continue, the union representing Canadian auto workers at Ford put its strike plans on hold. Uniford's contract with Ford was set to expire at midnight, but they extended the deadline by another 24 hours. If a deal isn't reached by 11:59 tonight, more than 5,000 workers could strike.
New at noon.
Over to Warren, where Warren police are providing an update on a shooting that happened near a school in Warren last Thursday.
4 teenage boys at Warren Woods Tower High School have been arrested now in connection to that shooting. Investigators also believe a 5th suspect may have been involved. Police say they executed a search warrant at 2 homes, found 5 weapons. Investigators think at least 2 of those were used in Thursday's shooting. 1 person was hurt. Warren Police Commissioner Bill Dwyer says the victim is still critical and will likely be left paralyzed. We'll have more on today's press conference and the investigation tonight on Local 4 News at 5.
Right now, Detroit police are searching for as many as 3 suspects after a natural gas explosion happened early this morning at a former bank building on Gratiot Avenue near Mack on Detroit's east side. Police say that scrappers broke into the building and that triggered the explosion while they were trying to steal a water heater. If you know anything, you should contact Detroit police or Crime Stoppers.
Tonight, the Grosse Pointe Shores City Council will consider banning pit bulls. A June incident involving a pit bull attacking an older dog walking with its owner sparked this whole debate. The older dog was severely injured and had to have one of its front legs amputated. Tonight's council meeting is scheduled for 7 at the City Hall on Lakeshore Road.
We are going to get an update on the construction progress for the Gordie Howe Bridge later today over the Detroit River. A public open house is scheduled at the Chas Center on 4th Street. There's going to be two 25-minute presentations, one at 3:30 and one at 5:15. During the presentations, design and construction updates will be provided, and project representatives will discuss the community benefit plan. A second meeting is scheduled across the border on Thursday afternoon in Windsor. Making a lot of progress there.
I love to see it. Love to see it.
It's fascinating.
It is. If you went to bed last night, you opened the windows, and you may have woken up like this.
Yes. That space heater that Ron's been talking about definitely would have been in full effect. But we are going to start to see a warm up, though, Ron.
We will, and we won't have to use a space heater any longer. We can save on that electricity, reducing our carbon footprint. All right, we have some sunshine right now. We have had a very, very interesting day with temperatures starting out today right around 40 degrees in some communities, while it was in the upper 50s in others. We had fog in some places. Well, right now we have a lot of sunshine across the area, but look over what's happening toward Jackson as you get over toward the west side and the center of the state as well. Those clouds are starting to move back in. This rain that is over there is going to be drifting into our area. We could see a couple of showers as soon as late tonight. All right, here's a look at downtown Detroit from Windsor. Beautiful out there. 69 in Detroit, 65 in Howell, 64 Pontiac, 66 in Adrian. That's a big difference from what we saw this morning. Here's some more temperatures regionally. We're looking at 61 in Sandusky, 66 in Metro Airport or at Metro Airport in Romulus. So here's what we're looking at with those sky conditions. A few clouds. We also have some sunshine out there. We're going to be seeing better conditions throughout the day. Things are looking good. The fog is now dissipated. We're going to talk a little bit more about the warm up, but if you want to get the latest information, all you have to do is download the Forewarned Weather app. Jason Aranda.
All right, Ron. Today, President Joe Biden addressing the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Parts of his speech focus on the war in Ukraine and come on the heels of a major foreign policy move.
After years of wrongful imprisonment in Iran, 5 Americans are returning home as part of a U.S.-Iran prisoner exchange. Let's get to Bree Jackson. She has the latest from Washington.
On behalf
President Biden addressing the United Nations General Assembly, touting his administration's commitment to working with nations to solve world problems.
the United States seeks a more secure, more prosperous, more equitable world for all people.
The president's speech comes after 5 Americans wrongfully detained in Iran for years arrived back on U.S. soil this morning.
Our fellow citizens are free after enduring something that I think it would be difficult for any of us to imagine.
Their release is part of a controversial prisoner exchange that gives Tehran access to $6 billion in oil revenues frozen by U.S. sanctions. The Biden administration contends that money can only be used for humanitarian needs. Republicans criticize the deal.
The Biden administration's record of appeasement and squandered leverage has left Americans less secure.
Today, President Biden meets with world leaders to discuss climate change, human rights, and cementing support for Ukraine in its war with Russia. The president is also asking Congress for an additional $24 billion to aid Ukraine.
I think we look through it, but the one thing I think the House is very concerned about is what's happening in America first.
Ukraine still fighting for freedom as a major foreign policy deal sets 5 detained Americans free. And Ukrainian President Zelensky is scheduled to come to Capitol Hill on Thursday to speak with lawmakers and to meet with President Biden at the White House. In Washington, Bree Jackson, NBC News.